kind of jump back in time?
It's not. The 51 series covers 1 year. That's it. 5 books in 1 year at a time. But the prequels, it's like 15 years of time. So there's a lot of little individual stories, and the way I'm able to do it is because there are active. There's what's happening in Missouri with Lindsay and the sheriff's deputies and the police officers she knows, and what's happening with Rin and the military and the agency. I can write chapters of those stories. So it's easy to do. And I've actually had, ideas of, this would be a great chapter. And I go ahead and I write that chapter, but it's not going to be in a book until the 3rd book, 4th book, because it has to fit into a specific timeline, but it's a great story that involving that person.
Yes. Matter of fact, do you almost get the feeling that these books, especially maybe the prequel books, are already written and you are just kind of bringing them to life with the idea that you don't necessarily have to write in a certain timeline, in a certain way? You're just kind of putting down on paper the things that come to you, maybe disjointedly even.
I do feel that way to a point. As wrote the original series, I kind of I had a bit of what happened in the past. There's just so much stuff that could have happened. There's no possible way that all of it could have been incorporated into one series. When you have Rin, who has worked in the military and the agency for over 15 years, dealing with all these creatures and entities, and then you have Lindsay and the other members of law enforcement doing their job for 15 years. That's a lot of stuff. So I couldn't put it all in one series. I had to do a prequel because there were so many people asking, well, okay, you mentioned this. What about this in this book? It's like I can't in because there's not enough room. They would be 2,000-page books by the time it was done, and it's just not. It's not possible. So
right.
That's what led to the prequel, because there's so many people asking, oh, I'd love to know about this because they've known each other a while. So what's the story with them? It's like I can't put all that in. I can give hints, but I can't put all that in. So, that's where the prequels came from. So the story's definitely written. It just needs to be on paper.
Yes, and gosh, it sounds to me that the prequels. What is your feeling? Do you think the prequels will be just as exciting as the book series, or do you think that it's just going to be a warm-up for the book series?
Oh, it will be exciting. I've got things in there that the prequels might actually be more, how do I put it? They're grittier than the original series. There's going to be things in there that are going to rip your heart out and stomp on it. I mean, because it explains why each person is the way they are in the 51 series.
Right. In other words, it explains their motivation of what they're doing at the time, I would imagine, and how they got there.
Right. And things like the death of Lindsay's husband are going to be in depth. Those are going to be detailed out because that's important to why she is the way she is, and part of why she's so protective of some of the people that she's protective of. Yes,
interesting. Well, I can't wait to to start hearing and reading some of those pre series books that you're going to come up with, because I believe as you write and you do more and more of these series, you get better and better. I would imagine that these prequels will be even better and more compelling than the actual series itself, which is saying something, because the series is very compelling already. So that'll be a really fun project for people to follow the whole idea of this story from the beginning to the end. I would imagine, well, let me ask you this. Here's an interesting idea. What if all of a sudden you get a call from a film studio that would be interested in putting these books in film format, and they want to talk to you about that? Would that be something that would interest you, or how would you handle the idea of control when it comes to, film?
First, I would have to recover from the stroke, and then it would. I would really just have to talk to them and see what the ideas that they have are, and see how they meshed. Because if they would want to change it to the point that the characters weren't what they are in the book, I would have a problem with that. But if they want to keep it close, but have it inspired by the books and close to the books, but add different things and maybe change some things, I would be okay with that, I think.
Well, good for you, because I know some writers get very possessive, of their characters, and of course you have to set some boundaries. But as long as you're willing to, hear them out in what they're kind of trying to portray, that would be admirable to at least listen to them and see what they want to do.
Yeah, and that's that goes back to also having characters that aren't specifically detailed out exactly what each one looks like. So, if they decided to cast people that I personally had never pictured as, these characters, I would still be okay with that, because maybe that's what they see. That's part of why I left it like that, so everybody could kind of picture who they felt was right.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. The idea being that you are playing upon everyone's creativity themselves in reading your books and adding to the perspective that you've actually written in their own minds. That's a good idea, I think. I wanted to ask you before we got any farther as well, is that, when you were a police officer yourself, was it police or was it sheriff's department that you actually worked at?
Both.
Oh,
both. I worked small town police departments and county sheriff's departments.
And isn't it true that you're also first responder? Was it EMT or firefighter as well? What was that other profession?
I was an EMT for 10 years.
Oh my goodness, you have a well-rounded experience on everything there.
I became an EMT at 18 and was licensed and certified for 10 years, and I became a police officer at 22 and was licensed and commissioned for over 16 years.
My goodness, that is quite a career, and you're still a young woman, so that's great. Also, I was wondering, during that long career that you had in multiple, law enforcement and, paramedic agencies and things, did you ever have any paranormal calls that you went on yourself?
I really didn't. For some reason, when I was working, nothing ever seemed to happen. It was always when I was off duty. It's just the way it seems to always work. The closest thing would be I had just started with the police department, and I was riding with another officer with the department because we lived in the same area and kind of carpooled to that department. And we were driving through the National Forest, of course, to get home, and completely isolated. There's not a house, a light for miles. And as we're driving down this stretch, there is an extremely bright flash of light off to the left of the car, off in the forest.
Is that right?
To the point that he was driving. He's like, "Did you see that?" It's like, "Yeah." And we turned around and went back thinking that it was some kind of strobe or, maybe a game camera that had flashed, which most game cameras don't use a flash like that. But, we thought maybe. And we backed all the way up, turned around, tried to make it happen again. We even got out of the car, shined lights into the forest, could not find anything. It did not happen again. It was just one extremely bright flash. I mean, like lightning flash. It was, I have no idea what it was still. To this day, I have no idea what it was.
And this was emanating from the forest off the side of the road. Is that right?
Right. It was back in the woods in part of the Mark Twain National Forest. And it was some distance off the road, which is why we didn't really think game camera, because it was so far off the road that it, the car headlights should not have triggered it. But even shining flashlights back into the area, if that was the case, it should have triggered it and it should have flashed again, and it didn't.
Yeah, and it was bright enough, obviously, to capture your attention. What color do you suppose, what was your impression on the color?
White to blue.
Interesting. And was it more of a laser kind of a light, or was this a diffused light that you might see with thunder or something like that?
We thought camera flash was what we thought, but it was too bright to even be a camera flash. There was no way that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was one of those, as we were driving, it's like, that could have been a camera flash. And then we start debunking that. It's like, yeah, that was way too bright to be a camera flash. There's no way that's what it was. So
yeah,
that's one of those mysteries that we have no idea what it was.
And you don't remember any missing time from that incident, or do you?
There was no missing time. Time. There was no nothing out of the ordinary except the bright flash of light that was unexplained.
Okay. Oh, that's fascinating.
Which was in the National Forest on the southeast corner from the Army base. So,
Oh, it was. Well, there you go. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of stuff that, yeah.
Well, and of course, you've probably read or at least heard about the David Paulides 411 Missing series books. About the whole idea of so many people vanishing basically without a trace in these national and state forests. Is that kind of an angle that you are exploring as well in your 51 book series?
No. No one goes missing. I do have that causes missing time, but goes missing. Nothing causes that unless something eats someone, which I don't even have that in there.
Yeah.